I'd like for you to picture something. It's 10:47 at night. You're in bed. The house is quiet and your mind starts running. Are we okay? What if the market drops again? What happens when one of us needs some type of health care? No one hears those questions, but they are very, very real.
And here's what makes that hard. Most of the people asking those questions have done everything right. They've saved, they've worked, they sacrificed, and yet uncertainty is still there. And that's why today matters. Welcome back to the On Track Retirement Show, where we want you to get on track, stay on track, and have a confident retirement. I'm Pat Schmidt.
And I'm Jay Karate.
Thank you so much, first and foremost, for all of those folks who have been watching and sharing and subscribing and doing all the things that you're doing. We would just ask, continue to do that. It's awesome to hear how much value that we are bringing folks who are tuning in. And we got another good one here today, Jay. Today, we're walking you through the 4 steps to achieve financial freedom. Not flashy freedom, not Instagram freedom, but real steady sleep at night freedom.
As we think about redefining these freedoms, financial freedom is just not about having enough to buy anything at any given point. That just doesn't seem to make sense. At some point, you will run out of money. It's really about not being afraid to live.
Yeah, and it's confidence to take the trip, help the grandkids, retire without constantly checking the markets. It's that kind of freedom.
It's not about abundance. It's about clarity and certainty. And it's certainly free from anything but no structure.
Yeah, so let's rock and roll here. So we got 4 of them here, so stay with us. So number 1 is clarity. Boy, we've used that word a lot so far.
It's so important.
And crystal clarity is what we're seeking here. So when we say clarity, what do we mean by that? What's important from that aspect?
Not just our number, but our income. Understanding what that looks like. We often talk through business about, well, what's the bottom line? What's the bottom line? What's the bottom line? If we don't know what the top line is, we can't have a bottom line that we know surety of. So we have to have an understanding of what that income looks like.
Yeah. If I can share a story just of a recent couple that we interacted with, let me paint a picture here, mid 60s. On paper, a lot of things looked really strong and solid here. Recently retired, very responsible, 7-figure portfolio, mortgages paid off, cars are paid off, no debt. So on paper, they were quote unquote fine. But when you ask them how much income do you need monthly, they looked at each other and they really had no clue. Now they knew their account values, to the penny, Jay. But what they really didn't know was what kind of income gap that they had now moving into retirement.
That gap, I think, completely unintentionally causes some level of anxiety. And when we have that anxiety, it's existing because we don't have any clarity. And without that clarity, everyone feels like every financial decision is in fact the wrong decision.
Sure. And with this couple, really after mapping it out, oh man, now we could show them, here's your guaranteed income. You can breathe a little bit. Here's your lifestyle number. Wow, there's trips. We can help the grandkids. We can help what the kids are going through. Here's how that is funded, both in short-term, mid-term, and long-term. You could just see the relief, both physically, emotionally. Their shoulders dropped, and that's truly what clarity can do, right?
As we understand, it's fascinating watching that. We see it day after day after day after day when we can create a plan, and you literally, it's a physical change that takes place at that point. And I don't know about you. I know it really kind of gets you going. That's something that gets my feet on the floor every morning, is giving people peace of mind.
Yeah, seeing that emotion is something you never lose sight of. You never forget. It's what charges you to get out of bed every day, to be able to fix and be able to address. And so clarity is not just necessarily understanding the problems or challenges, clarity is, there's two parts of it, right? You got to have that. You got to understand some of the risks. You got to understand some of the things that are out there. But clarity is also in having peace of mind, knowing how do you fix and address those problems.
Think of a sporting event. You know you're going to go to the sporting event if you're playing on that team, but if you don't have a game plan, it just doesn't work. So we need a game plan in retirement. We need to understand that whole process. It cannot be overstated.
Yeah, fantastic. This is a show that's very dedicated to folks who are near or in retirement that are dealing with the anxiousness, they're dealing with the worry. So having clarity in all of those pieces is certainly monumental. Let's set our second step.
Go.
Me? Second.
You.
Second. So first, step one, clarity. Step number two is income's got to be for income is the foundation. If you're picturing your retirement like a house, the income is the foundation of that. This is a shift that, Jay, a lot of retirees, they never make. During their working years, they're focused on accumulation and growth and putting those dollars aside, right? Well, in retirement, that obviously is significantly different because now it changes from accumulation to distribution, a totally different ballgame.
And so that income then, what I'm hearing you say is that income, those supplements, Social Security or pensions, whatever it may be, it's not necessarily all about market withdrawals. Retirees just tend to watch the news differently. It's not getting information. It's what does my retirement look like? Every downturn is personal. Every type of headline that could change that now feels like it's a threatening personal affront to me.
Are there headlines out there trying to drive behaviors?
There may or may not be. They may or may not exist at this particular time.
Yeah, and how do you tune those out?
Yeah, and I have some options, but that's a whole nother podcast. But to that extent, understanding what can be threatening and when essential expenses are covered with some level of stable income for us, with again stable being the issue. It's not a lottery kind of, hey, by the way, we had a windfall, so that's good. But there's a level of stability. Market volatility just becomes background noise. Nobody pays attention to it at all.
So that mindset of income first, I think this is important to get this. It doesn't mean no growth, right? It means stability before speculation. Right. Like that's what we're attacking there. It means protecting your lifestyle first and then letting investments grow around that structure. So, income, it can be making sure folks have a great path forward on how they want to maximize Social Security, right? There's a number of different options available, and that one needs to be tailored or customized to that individual plan. People have pensions out there available. So how do you maximize and get the most out of that? But of course, so many times those income sources are not covering the monthly need. So how do you start to put the investments in a path where people have that stability? So that's really important. And having that type of structure, that's where real confidence can begin.
Oh, it really does. When we understand that confidence, we spoke earlier about the couple that were stressed and we created that plan, and all of a sudden you can see that stress come along and they're kind of in a shell. Now all of a sudden they start to come up and have that confidence, and that's huge. Moving from confidence then, now we go into control. Step number 3 is control. Now, I know a bunch of people that are control freaks. And I may or may not be one of those people as well. I like to control those things I can control. What can't I control? Markets. What else can't I control? Tax legislation. What's going on in Washington and or the capital of your state that might cause your taxes to grow on a local, state, or federal level? We can't control that. It just all of a sudden, oh, by the way, next year you're going to pay more taxes. And then we might even know that. It might be something that just kind of crops up and hits us when we go to the accountant and say, here's my taxes. And they go, good news, bad news. I'm happy to help you. Bad news is you owe more taxes at that point. And then lastly, and not in any level of order, but something of tremendous importance is those things that we would identify as health events. Whether it's something that you're healthy all your life and then there's something that comes along, there's some type of chronic illness along the way. But as we get older, health events become more real. I remember often my folks talking about just getting together with friends and talking about different things in life. Health always came up. Being a little bit older myself, I tend to have those conversations with my friends as well. But here's one thing that you can't control, and that's how exposed you are. Something that's I
Control
find
the controllables. I've heard you say
the controllables.
Control the controllables.
Control the controllables. What does it look like if we have something that's really, really powerful? The market drops 30%. Next, what happens to my retirement? If we have this 30% drop in the market, what changes do I make? What don't I spend money on?
That's the reality, Jay. The average baby boomer lost nearly 45% in the last recession, going back to 2008. Yeah. Now, I think in so many ways people have been blinded, since 2009, 10. And of course, there's been a couple little bleeps in the market along the way, but it's come, roaring back pretty quick. That's not normal, right? So I think the question then becomes, when you have that, what do you do, right? Do you cut spending? Do you go back to work? Do you delay retirement? Do you lose sleep? Is that the answer?
Real. I go back into when my wife and I got married and years and years and years ago, and there were times that we go, golly, we've got more month than we do money. What do we cut? What can't we spend money on? Or do we go into debt? Which that certainly doesn't seem to make sense either. So these decisions that we make, I think it would be wise that if we can live our life in retirement based on principle versus pocketbook, it looks a whole lot different.
So many times that risk is managing people instead of people proactively managing the risk, right? And so I think that's where we're at with control. There was somebody I met with recently that comes to mind here, and nearly 100% of their retirement income was completely dependent on portfolio withdrawals. So when we stress tested it against a downturn scenario happening early in retirement, the outcome was extremely uncomfortable. What I mean by a stress test is taking somebody's existing portfolio and saying, okay, if we have a 2008 market environment, what does that look like for you? And that's not to necessarily scare anybody. We don't believe in scare tactics, but it is to illustrate something incredibly important, that if you want financial freedom, well, that requires guardrails, because those 2008 market environments, those are going to happen, right? They're going to happen for people in retirement. They may happen not once, maybe not twice, maybe three, maybe more times during retirement, and making sure that folks have control and a plan for those types of risks.
So with those guardrails, then, is that something that's so rigid that it can't be moved, or is it something more of almost like those bumpers in a bowling alley?
Yeah, and I think it has to be more of, I think more of the bumpers in the bowling alley, as I think about it, is somebody's plan, right? Making sure that there's significant control specifically around the income, right? And people need, they need stability off of the monies that they're going to live off of. Now, I believe that needs to be tailored and customized to meet people where they're at and their need, their age, their goals, and all things retirement considerations. And far too often we see, I won't throw any advisory firms that are out there, but we see just a cookie cutter type of plan for each and every one. And man, that's not control. That's more of the hope plan. And that's stress testing. That isn't pessimism. That's just simply preparation for what potentially could come.
As most people, my guess is, have gone through a stress test at some point. A lot of people in the retirement world have done that. You step on a treadmill at the doctor's office and you run as fast as you can and you're breathing like nobody's business, and they ask you to hop off, and all of a sudden stop breathing while they check your heart. Now we can identify what those issues are. With that, we deal with those docs that have ordered those tests. Now we have the technicians, and now we have the results. That's coordination, and that's step number 4.
Yeah, especially with health, we think of, right, you reach certain ages, or certain things you're supposed to do annually or every so often. You do that with your health. Why would you not do that with 100%. Why not do it with your wealth? Why not do it with your financial well-being? So, so in catch up here, we're hitting 4 of these today, Jay. So number 1 is clarity. Number 2 is income first. And number 3 is control. Number 4, and this is, man, it's missed so much. If you didn't catch that, coordination. This is where most financial plans break down, and quietly break down. Another real life scenario here is met a widowed client, and she had investments, she had insurance, she had an attorney who drafted documents years ago, but nothing was coordinated. Everything was really working in its different silos, and nothing was working together. Beneficiaries were outdated. There was massive tax implications, and those things weren't aligned with income withdrawals or with her plan. The risk level didn't match income needs. Individually, the pieces weren't necessarily entirely wrong. They just weren't together, and so they weren't optimized.
They weren't aligned.
Yeah.
Right. There was no alignment there. And so once we align everything, when we have income strategy and tax planning, estate positioning, as you mentioned, with that from her attorneys as well, now it becomes much more cohesive. When we understand the cohesive nature of something, it works back and forth. It's not just one plan here and one plan there, but literally it's like that flock of birds that moves about easily, and who knows where to turn, right? Yeah. Now all of a sudden we see it go this way and the other, and so we have a level of cohesive nature in that as well. And what changed, though, if I remember you telling me, is it wasn't her net worth; it was her confidence.
Yeah, and that's the level of coordination and bringing those things together, and mini commercial here, and part of our retirement planning firm is that we wanted to build a scope of planning, a suite of services that does have that coordination, that income planning and market safety, their investments, their estate planning, that the proactive tax planning, that all of those things there. And I miss the healthcare. Holy smokes. Like having all of those things coordinated and working together, there's great peace of mind in that. Not peace of mind just that all of those things are working together and aligned, but when something happens to one spouse, that there's one phone call to make. Right? If something happens to both, the kids have one phone call to make, and there's great peace of mind in that, and great clarity going back to that first word. So let's recap our 4 steps to financial freedom. Number 1 is clarity, which comes down to knowing your real income number. Number 2, income's got to be first. It's that foundation. You got to secure the lifestyle and have stability around that. Number 3 is control. Manage risk before it manages you. Yeah. And then finally, coordination. Make everything work together.
It is that level of coordination that ultimately, I think, for me, one of the things that gets me going is love hearing 3 very specific words strung together in a sentence. I feel good. And when we can give that peace, when we can give that clarity, when we have that coordination, when everything works well, it helps them not necessarily predicting the market. That gets too wonky. It just gets too far out there to understand what it means to, well, I think this is going to happen, or I think that's going to happen. Now it becomes a dependence on preparation.
And know something there. None of it depended on the market. None of it depended on, well, I've saved enough and I'm going to be okay, right? It still comes down to having a level of preparation, right? And at the end of the day, there's so many gaps, so many misses that we see folks having, and making sure that there's clarity, that there's an income first plan, that there's control around things, and there's coordination. A lot of C words in there. We should have come up with alliteration for the income first. Our producer Adam's going to be like, "That was a miss. Where'd you guys come up with that?" But all of those items, what do? They create confidence, right? And that confidence is the financial freedom. So there's your 4 steps to financial freedom, Jay.
And financial freedom, just kind of understanding what that looks like. It's not simply about a number. It's truly a feeling. And when we have that feeling of that freedom, that good night's rest that we talk about so often, that cannot be overrated, it must be done intentionally.
If you're listening right now and quietly wondering, do we have real clarity? Is our income structured properly? Are we exposed to some of these risks more than we realize? You're not alone. Yeah. Right? Most retirees were never shown how to build the framework, but once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, here's the bold truth about it. Financial freedom is not about chasing more. It's about protecting what you have. It's about understanding what you have. And it's understanding what you have and what you've already built and how that part naturally segues into the next step.
Yeah, clarity, income first, control, coordination. That's the structure.
Yeah.
If you like to walk through these 4 steps personally, we'd invite you to a complimentary on-track retirement review. It's a pressure-free conversation designed to bring clarity. It's not to sell products. It's to provide peace of mind. It's to provide that financial freedom. You can visit myontrackretirement.com to certainly learn more.
Next time we get together, we're going to take care of one of the biggest silent threats in retirement, and that's taxes.
Until then, protect your freedom intentionally.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.